I'm here to tell you a story about how 53,000 people persuaded a few very big companies to get seriously involved in ethics. Some things that's not necessarily has got much to do with their core business. And if you would agree with me, business and large multinational companies and larger groups of people using social media have one critical element in common. And that is that they both work above and across national borders. Hence, they can address international issues, including ethical issues. And in order to talk about corporations and business, I first have to talk about a Norwegian girl. Let's see, there. Her name is Martina. She was a student here in London in 2008. After a night out with her friends, she, at the club here in London, she was brutally raped and murdered. And the only suspect is her fellow student, Farouk Abdulhak. He escaped to Yemen just a few hours after this incident, where he lives now freely, protected by his father's wealth and money. Here's another photo. He is wanted by Interpol and Scotland Yard. He has in meetings admitted his crime, but he doesn't want to face trial, and he doesn't need to either, because there are no extraditional treaties between the UK and Yemen. Here's another photo. So, I didn't know Martina, but I know her father. And this must indeed be one of the most terrible things to happen to a parent, to lose your child in this way. And the perpetrator walks free because of his father's wealth and connections, including business connections. So what can a person do about this? Because you got to do something, right? And as a father, you try to get governments, you try to get police to do everything possible, as much as they can. And as friends of Martina, you rally your friends and you rally their friends again to try to do something, anything. And this is what happened. Two friends of Martina, they made this page. Take part in solving the crime, the murder crime of Martine Vik Magnussen. In a very short time, it gathered more than 150,000 members, supporters. And so many said, why don't you go on the people or the companies in business with the father of the suspect and try to get them to do something about it, get them on our side, get them to take a stand, to put pressure on the family to do the right thing. And I sat down with the father of Martina. His name is Odd Petter. One day we sat down and we discussed this. He had tried to search for a good solution in so many ways. And it turns out that, well, it was apparent that putting pressure on the family, and especially the father of the suspect, Farouk Abdulhak, was very important. He is, it turns out he's in business with Whirlpool, with Mercedes, with Philips, and a number of other companies, and especially with the Coca-Cola company. We also found out from CIA, public information, that he's involved in arms trading. He helped sell 25,000 machine guns and 12 million rounds of ammunition to Hamas. I don't think that's very helpful. So, we initiated a 2-week boycott of companies in business with the father of the suspect, because of him sheltering his son. And we wanted to tell them that now, well, we don't feel very comfortable buying your products. We'd like you to do something about this. Break off his business, your business with him, or take a stand, or help us in any way you can. So we said, well, we'll do it this way. We'll try your competitors' products until you do something. And Philips, Mercedes, and Whirlpool, they all pulled out their connections. They cut the connections and said, sure, we understand. Coca-Cola, they didn't at first. And I had a tough time during this period, this boycott period, of holding back so many people. Well, not too many people. We were 53,000 people, but holding back many who wanted to have tougher dialogue, who wanted to have a tougher confrontation and ram the corporations more. That's not how we wanted to do this. It was important for me to have an open dialogue, to use transparency, and to try to use dialogue above all means to achieve something here. And it did work also with Coca-Cola. I'll tell you why. But first of all, why did it work? Well, because we were perfectly clear on who we were and what we wanted to achieve. We were satisfied customers. We were not anarchists or people or general critics of multinational corporations. No, not at all. We were happy customers who didn't feel quite content buying the products of these companies when they just said, well, we do business. We don't deal with ethics and these kind of things. But no, we didn't accept that. We got together, and now it's Coca-Cola left, right? The other ones had said, okay, we'll do something. We got together, and we spread the word, and we made the news, and it was the strangest thing. It had an effect. For 2 weeks, the Coca-Cola company, they said, no, no, no. And then they changed their minds, suddenly. And the last week was more about how to land softly so that this boycott business doesn't get out of hand. It worked. And today, Farouk Abdulhak, the suspect, the only suspect, still refuses to face trial, but our effort has put a tremendous pressure on the family to do the right thing. The father of the suspect, Sturla Abdulhak, has offered through his lawyers for his son to face trial in Yemen, but this is obviously not acceptable in one of the most corrupt countries in the world. In Yemen, protesters joined in and helped us. This is from January. They gave out leaflets all around and held demonstrations. Something happened during this Coca-Cola initiative. It's all about dialogue. They thought we were, Coca-Cola, that is, they thought we were going to be crazy, unreasonable, aggressive. But that's not how we use dialogue to achieve our goal. I call it soft, hard dialogue. It works. So this is a story about how a few tens of thousands of people were able to get a few very big companies to take a stand and act and do something about something that's perhaps not related that much to their core business, but it's about ethics, because it's all about ethics. And on an ending note, let me tell you that there are so many more issues like this all around the world, just waiting to get exposed for someone to address them. The Norwegian oil company, Statoil, spends 3 times longer with their ships through the Suez Canal, around Yemen, the Bay of Aden there, than their competitors. And why? Because they have a zero-tolerance policy on corruption. No bribes. And I got a friend who works in the competition for a Norwegian shipping company. His job is to push enter on the bribes. He sends the bribes away. He's not very comfortable with that. And it's not only, the worst thing is not the bribes themselves, but because he's realizing, along with many of his colleagues and also in other companies doing this, sending the bribes away, that this money is actually not going into the Yemeni government or to any officials at all. It's going to finance terrorist groups. They're actually understanding that because they got signals on that. It's all about ethics. and values. And I know that inside big corporations, there are people who care. They just need to hear stories like this, with this one of Martina. Thank you.